Erin Summers, Luke McCown here with Rhett Lewis of the NFL Network. Busy week for you.
Yeah.
The shows start today.
That's right.
Drills are starting.
The real work begins today.
Exactly.
Let's go.
For you, right?
Yeah. I know you guys have been doing some real work all week. I get it.
No, you've been doing a lot of prep work, I'm sure.
That's right.
What are you looking forward to the most here?
I'm looking forward to somebody, beyond the top 5 guys at each position that we've been talking about to kind of step into the spotlight and just kind of introduce themselves, and look, we're talking about athleticism here, right? Not necessarily, playing ball, right. But I still think that there is value for guys that are maybe a little bit further down the ladder on, positional depth charts right now to say like, hey, like go back and look at my tape again because I can flip and play, and that is one of my favorite things about this day, and then obviously the next 3.
Listen, I boarded the flight.
Yeah.
Okay, on Tuesday from Dallas.
Okay.
And I was at the Combine 21 years ago. kind of old.
Love it.
Kind of an old guy.
Yeah.
But there were about 35, 40 players getting on at the same time. And all those same feelings just come rushing back, right? And some of those feelings were like, man, I wonder if they'll let me get out there and run with them or throw with them, right?
Yeah.
And then my better judgment kicks in and like, no, you're old. You're too old for that. But you're exactly right. All the dreams, all the hopes that these guys have worked for years coming to fruition. It's the biggest job interview they'll ever
absolutely right.
They'll ever apply for, if you will, and looking forward to who steps up.
Yeah.
Who makes a name for themselves. It's not a star-laden draft.
That's
class.
right. That's right.
Really deep.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of players in the second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round that become household names because of how deep this draft is.
Oh, I would agree with you there. And by the way, I'm still waiting on my Combine invite. So 20 years later. So you got me there. You know what? I will be on the field. So here's the thing that I'll say. There's this time of year and this time of this week, we're talking about, this guy's not doing this guy's not doing that. And while it doesn't necessarily hurt them that they're not doing it, it can really help others.
Yeah,
and so I, to your point, I think about that opportunity. But I think about the opportunity for the Saints on a day like today, a day when D tackles and D ends are rolling, right? And look, we know who the top guys are probably going to be, and I know Mason Graham's not competing from Michigan, and we won't see Kenneth Grant, his other defensive tackle buddy, as well. There's Jalen Walker's probably not going today, but there's guys that are, and I think. In this draft, the defensive line group, I'm sure you guys have heard from many people sitting in this seat, extremely deep and talented.
Absolutely.
But I think there's going to be a winner for the Saints at number 9 right there to really help get that defense back to what it was doing, a couple of years ago and dominating games.
Yeah, one of the sexy names right now is Shamar Stewart.
Oh, baby.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
There's rumblings out there of 6'5", 280 and running 4.4.
Yeah, come on.
Like being one of these combine freaks that just really puts themselves out there, like you said, and elevates their position just by what they do on the field.
Yeah, I love Shamar. We saw him at the Senior Bowl, so I've seen him in against the best of the best, and obviously he played in the SEC for A&M, so he was going against really, really good competition. I think the thing that you have to settle yourself with there is, all right, the guy led the team in pressures at A&M, so we know he can get to the quarterback, but has not been able to finish. Only had 4.5 sacks, I think, for his career. So. Sack production is one thing that I think a lot of GMs talk about, has the ability to translate kind of regardless of level. Like if you can find a way to get to the quarterback, you're probably going to figure out a way to find a way to get to the quarterback in the league. So I think about that a little bit with Shamar as opposed to a guy like Mike Green, who found his way to the quarterback and finished 17 times this year and led FBS on that front. So I know my buddy Daniel Jeremiah pegged Mike Green in at number 9 to the Saints in his latest mock draft. I'd love to see it. We saw him at the Senior Bowl too. So, I've seen that athleticism. Donovan Ezeraku is a guy I think down
16.5 sacks this year.
Yeah, right below. Right. So here's another name for you. Probably on day 2, Olufemi Oladejo from UCLA.
Yep.
Is still so young in his edge rusher career. Guy played 4 or 5 years of college football, was an off-ball backer.
Yeah.
they made the switch. He moved down selflessly down to edge to bring Carson Schlesinger, another favorite of mine that I could see in a Saints uniform, at linebacker, bring him in at the linebacker. And it actually ended up helping both guys. Schlesinger ends up as a Butkus Award finalist after playing 9 games at linebacker. And then, Femi gets a Senior Bowl invite, playing, 9 games at edge rusher.
Right.
Those two guys, I would feel really good about the teams that end up with them on day 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of depth in the edge rush position.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been saying that's where the Saints should go with 9. You mentioned a lot of defensive players, but maybe down further in the draft offensively, where do you think there are some needs for the Saints?
Well, it's a really good. This is a really good tight end class, and I know Juwan Johnson's been a good player for the last couple of years and has caught some, made some big plays. But I don't think you can go wrong with helping out your quarterback with a tight end there. You know what I'm saying? Look, Taysom Hill, does what he does, and I still think that there are going to be guys like, the good folks in New Orleans are going to be very familiar with Mason Taylor's name from LSU. Right. You want to talk about a big-time pass catcher at tight end with a big-time professional mindset coming from his Hall of Fame dad. Leaves LSU as the most productive tight end in program history. I look at him. I look at Elijah Arroyo from Miami as guys that can really impact the game in the past. Look, they're not going to be a yackle, and line up at Y and really, block at the point of attack as well. But there's a place for those dudes in an offense that can make plays.
At number 9, and I've asked a couple of people this, at number 9, if Ashton Jeanty is still there for the Saints, do you think they go with a running back?
Man, he's a special player, so I could understand it. We just haven't really I don't know if he's a Bijan Robinson type of talent, and that's the landscape in which we kind of view running backs going that high, based off a couple of years ago with the Falcons. But here's the other thing that I really like about him. Like, there's a player I like in Caleb Johnson from Iowa, but, man, really feels like he excels in his own scheme.
Right.
With Ashton, like, you look at the way that they ran at Boise. They were 20%, 20% counter. They were 20% outside zone. They were 20% gap.
Right.
Like I'd love to get your thought on that too, Luke. Like, to have a guy that you don't necessarily need to pigeonhole into a certain scheme, and how valuable that is, because I think that ups the value of Ashton.
Yeah, tremendous. You look at what Kellen Moore did with Saquon Barkley this year. And the same type tool bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
The same type runner that is not just inside, not just outside.
Yeah.
What that does in your play action pass, right? Because now you're stretching linebackers, at the second level to get back in cover, right, after a play action. Not just from inside the A and the B gap, but now you're stretching off of play action. And it opens up a whole nother level of what you can do in the play action game with a back that threatens the edge and threatens the inside.
So Luke is saying if he was there at 9, Luke would take him.
I would take him. I would take him for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Number 1, I think at that point he's probably going to be the best player on the board.
Sure.
Number 2, he's a 3-down back. And number 3, I love AK, but he's not getting younger.
No, that's right.
And his specialty is going to begin to be matchups.
Yes.
Right? The older that he gets. It's going to be, let me get you outside on a linebacker in coverage. The same way we used Darren Sproles for years. And so this takes mileage off of Alvin to carry the ball on the first 2 downs and allows him to be what he's going to be best at later in his career.
So you could make an argument that philosophy with taking a running back there that has that special skill set, right? A guy that, Saquon Barkley went all the way up at number 2. I'm not saying that they're apples to apples, but, that's kind of what you're talking about, being the first running back off the board, going in the top 10. So you look at the Eagles model and what Saquon did for them, but also look at the way that they supported the offense with the just continuing to pound the offensive line, continuing to pound the defensive line with high draft resources. What if Will Campbell's still available at number 9 from LSU?
Yeah. Right.
Like, could you pass on that, knowing what Ryan Ramczyk has gone through?
Correct.
Right? And I know we went with Talisi Fuaga, last year, but can you have enough really good offensive linemen?
No, and again, if you just look at the Philadelphia Eagles model,
that's it.
Yeah.
It's a big, strong, talented offensive line that opens you up to do whatever you want to do.
I don't think Will's going to be there at 9, but Kelvin Banks might, Tyler Booker from Alabama might, and if the Saints end up finding their way out of number 9, although I don't know that there's a lot of teams looking to fly up in this draft because of what we talked about at the top. A guy like Gray Zabel, from North Dakota State to kind of help continue to solidify, because he can play everywhere.
Play inside.
You know, if you slide down into the late teens, into the early 20s, you know, that could be one. Like there's options there, and there'll be options, you know, beyond the first round as well. But I don't think that the Saints could go wrong with a big guy on either side of the line at 9.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts of the offensive line, the bones are really good.
Sure.
Trevor Penning played really well this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fuaga.
Yeah.
Eric McCoy is still a top 2 center in the league.
Doubt.
And Cesar Ruiz at the guard.
Yeah.
So and then the other guard position had 2 guys on injured reserve this year.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that, you know, I think they build for depth at the offensive line.
Yeah.
I think they'll do that in free agency. I think they'll do that later in the draft. I think, to your point earlier, I see defensive end or tight end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
What if
I'm
Tyler
a quarterback.
Warren's there?
Yeah.
If Tyler Warren is there, you've got a Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey.
No question.
Mix,
He's somebody
right?
you brought up earlier today.
Absolutely. I think he, you know, he can play with his hand in the dirt, but he's a matchup nightmare if you get him outside.
And he is one of the smartest dudes, regardless of position group, in this draft in terms of football intelligence.
Yeah.
And that's the word I've gotten around here talking to guys that, you know, kind of do some of those cognition testing things. And so that is a slam dunk in my opinion.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
Outside of the draft,
Yeah.
looking at the new coaching staff that's going to be coming in here, what do you think 2025 is going to look like for the Saints?
Well, I love it. So, you know, my dad was a trainer for the Saints for 32 years.
A Metairie native,
yes,
right
yes,
here.
indeed, that's right. And so, you know, I love what the Saints did this year with Kellen Moore. My dad was actually his trainer when the Lions drafted him out of Boise. He was up there.
Okay.
And so I've always had an affinity for what Kellen's done in his career. And then Doug Nussmeier, obviously coming full circle, right? Coming back, what was he, a 5th-round pick out of Idaho?
That's right.
Ended, I think, for a minute, had the Superdome record for longest touchdown pass, which he threw to Terry Guess. I want to say that was that was broken by Drew pretty quickly.
Yeah. What a great trivia question one night, family dinner night or something.
Right? I think he married a Saint-sation too,
yes, he
right?
did. Yeah.
Okay. I love that he's kind of getting this opportunity now in the league. Just super cool. I just those two guys feel like they are on the same wavelength, and they got the most out of that Eagles offense. Now those are top-end players, and the Saints need to go get more top-end players. Yep. But I just like, they're really sharp guys. I'm really excited about where they're going.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Of course.
This has been so fun.
Anytime.
Yeah, good luck with
Love my NOLA peeps.
the rest of your coverage this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.